I'm going to talk to you guys today, give you an overview of what AutoTrader is, what we're not, and talking about framing up what our business has been around car shopping and the future of car shopping and how we play a role in that. So to give you a little bit of perspective, how many of you guys like buying a car? Not a lot of people, huh? That just shows a little bit how the industry is changing. I'm noticing as I'm traveling around all these car sharing services, and that's definitely starting to disrupt the industry. But buying a car is something that a lot of people like to do in the concept phase, which is like, hey, I want to go check out what different kinds of cars there are. But how many people here like to go and sit down and talk to a dealer? Yeah, nobody likes talking to dealers. So that's kind of where the challenges are. We're aggregating a lot of car shoppers, connecting them with a lot of car dealers, connecting them with manufacturers, and understanding the dynamics between all that. So I'll give you a little bit of history here on who AutoTrader is. Our overall mission is to be the number one resource for buying and selling cars, either new, used, or certified. I always like to use this slide because for those of you that are familiar with our brand, we've been around since 1977, and we started out as a print publication. And that's about as mobile as you could get back in those days. You pick up a magazine in a local convenience store, put it in your pocket, show your friends, all those kinds of things, walk into the dealership and say, hey, I'm looking at this. And so a little bit of retrospective on our history. We started in 1977 with print magazines, and then evolved in 1998 with the launch of our website, where it made it really powerful for car dealers, which they didn't really quite understand because if you're familiar with car dealerships, they're very slow to adopt some technologies. So when we're talking to them about saying, hey, instead of just having your cars in a magazine where you only reach a very certain small group of people, how about if you can put them in a place where you can get lots and lots of people? So we started in 1998 with our website. Started consolidating all the listings that we had all over the country. In 2008, we expanded into different segments and categories, and we launched what we call AutoTrader Classics. So we have a property that focuses on people that are in collector cars. In 2010, we came up with probably our most innovative project, which is trying to help people at the stage of trading in a car. So the process of trading in a car is really complicated. You have different dealers offering you different prices. You've got, you can either sell it yourself, and that's kind of complicated. So what we did is we partnered with somebody that would basically guarantee an offer. So you go into our website, you put in the information of your car, and literally within 24 hours, you get an offer back from AutoTrader that's guaranteed that says if you take it to these participating dealers, they'll write you a check for your car, and you're done. So that's been really a successful product. It's kind of differentiated us a little bit in the marketplace and really helped us connect, the needs of the consumer with the business objectives of dealers of sourcing more inventory. Obviously, mobile started becoming kind of an important thing. Probably before that, but we made our first mobile launch sometime around 2010, late 2010, with a mobile site. Just basically allowed people to search for cars. And then in 2011, we added some apps. Basically took a hybrid approach, and we built our mobile app and our mobile sites basically powered by the same platform. And so today we've kind of evolved from being that small little print magazine into being what we call AutoTrader Group, where we, some of you might have heard from one of my counterparts this morning from Kelley Blue Book, but we acquired Kelley Blue Book about 2.5 years ago. We also acquired a series of companies that provide software solutions for dealerships. One of them provides solutions around how to price their cars, how to select cars to put on their lots, what kind of demand there is for cars. We also have a company that basically takes and manages all of the inventory images and details that dealers have and distributes them all over the internet. And then we also have a dealership CRM and website company that powers software for dealerships in their stores. So we've grown from a small, kind of directional classified media business into a much more data-centric company where we have two different divisions. We've got the dealer software side, and then we've got the media side. So if you take all that into account, our business is definitely very complex when you deal with all those different pieces of it, the dealer software side, the the media side. They're both very tied together, but they're very distinct and complex business models. But it gets even more complex when you start layering on all of the different dimensions that this kind of brings together. AutoTrader.com as a brand has about 17 million people using our site or our services every month. And that goes across mobile and our website. When you combine what we get from Kelley Blue Book between both of our brands, we engage with 62% of all in-market car shoppers on any given time, which is pretty considerable. So you've got people that are at the stage of when they're looking, and then you've got people at the stage where they're considering, and we're providing them with all the evaluation criteria. And then this adds a lot of complexity as well, because all car shoppers are very different. Everybody has different needs. People need to know, do I need a new car? What kind of car should I buy? Where can I get the best deal? There's at least 8 different shopper types. So we've got a whole myriad of complexities around how do we solve the problems of all these different types of shoppers and their different types of needs. And then you talk about the millions and millions of different options of vehicles that are out there at any given time. We have 22,000 car dealers that work with us that basically promote their inventory on our website. That's our predominant revenue model. Our dealers pay us, listing fees to have their cars listed on our website. And then we have some complexities around those as well. We've got franchise dealers, which are the traditional larger car dealerships that sell new cars. They have used car lots. And then you've also got the independent dealerships, which could be small independent dealerships that have a little lot. They sell maybe 10 cars a month, or some of the other ones that are more into the buy here, pay here type of scenario. So we've got a lot of different moving parts around those and different priorities and objectives with what their needs are. To make things even more complicated, we also work with a lot of manufacturers. So we work with pretty much all the top OEMs from a branding, retention, conquesting strategy on our website, targeting in-market car shoppers across our entire user experience to promote their brand and influence people into their makes and models. And then to make things even more fun, we have 500,000 people a year that list their car for sale on AutoTrader.com. And that also creates another sense of complexity because you've got other issues there where you've got to protect the privacy of those people that are posting their cars. These are private individuals. And then you've also got to put in some constraints around fraud because you've got a lot of people that will fraudulently list cars for sale that don't belong to them and trying to basically steal money from people by saying they are selling a car they don't really own. So we've got a lot of complexity around that. But this is a valuable part of our business because this is a good way where people that are looking to sell their car is the first time maybe they could engage and find out, well, if I'm going to sell my car here, this is a good place for me to look for a car. And subsequently, it's also good for dealers because this is a place where they can source opportunities to get inventory for their dealerships as well. So it all comes together right here. This is what our website looks like today. I showed you a few slides ago kind of what it looked like when we first launched. If you can imagine taking all of those different pieces and then putting all these things together, when you come to our website, any of our sites, we're harmonizing all of these things, trying to create a very holistic user experience that drives value for each of those constituents, ultimately, hopefully resulting in a good user experience for the shopper. But this is the reflection of that, and when you look at it, every little pixel that we have on our website is monetized. So the reason I wanted to show you this is because when you start thinking about it from the historical perspective, like who we are, what our brand identity is, what people expect from our brand, kind of what we've evolved to, how we've manifested that into this particular experience, when you start thinking about mobile, that changes the whole thing, and it starts making it even much more complicated. Because when you monetize all these little pixels, well, they don't translate. If all your audience starts shifting over to mobile, it doesn't translate quite that easily. So you start to think about how does that affect your monetization model. So to give you a little perspective on people, how people buy cars, you've seen some of the previous slides from the last presentation about the shopper journey from booking hotels. This is what people do typically when you buy a car, and I'm presenting it in a linear fashion. It's not really linear. It kind of goes around, and people average to take 90 days, and they bounce back and forth between all these activities, but it starts basically with a want or a need. Either I lost a car, I wrecked my car, or I just need a car because my car is just getting old. I go through this process of discovery. I have no idea You know, if you think about going to a website like Amazon.com, it's just a collection of millions and millions and millions of products. I have no idea where to begin. So there's so many different things that influence me. There's TV commercials, there's friends, there's what I read in magazines, what I see on the road. And so it becomes a little overwhelming, especially as you start to see all the different options that are become available in cars. And now cars where in the past were predominantly driven by, car decisions were driven by reliability. Now it's really more around electronics and features that are available inside of cars. So understanding all that is becoming complicated. And then how do you evaluate that? You know, is this the right car for me? How do I evaluate that? Is it the right price? How am I going to finance that? Is this the right dealership I want to buy from? And then finally I decide, I go get into the dealership, I get in the car, I test drive it, and then I go ask my friends and ask my buddies and ask my wife and everybody that I need to help me inform my decision on, you know, buying the car and can I even afford it? And then ultimately into the purchase. So I'm reflecting it here as sort of a real linear approach. Like I said, it's not. It's about a 90-day process on average, and people kind of bounce around all these things. They go back to the beginning and start over again. But this kind of frames up sort of the path that people take to buying a car. As far as how people are engaging with shopping for cars on digital, today about 68% of car shoppers are starting on one device and they are continuing on another device. So it's in the studies that we've done, and in the evaluations that we've done, car shopping is very tailored to sequential shopping. So you start out maybe on the tablet, you start out, you know, on the phone or the website, but in the aggregate, you end up using a little bit of everything. Tablet, in terms of share of time, is competing a lot with the site, with the core site, where the traditional website's getting about 27 minutes. On average, the tablet's getting about 26, and the phone's getting about 15. So people are using it obviously at different times. Now, the natural inclination would be to think, oh, well, the best place for somebody to use a phone is when they're out actually at the dealership. Well, ironically, we found that that's not necessarily the case. What ends up happening is that people show up to the dealership, and then their head automatically goes to the real world, which is I'm touching the car, I'm talking to the person about my credit, whatever. And so the last thing you think of is I'm going to pull my phone out and start using my phone. However, there's some opportunity for us there that I'll talk about. So I'll give you a little bit of background on what we've done so far with mobile. Obviously, like I mentioned before, we have a mobile website, we have an Android app, and we have an iPhone app. Our combined apps between Android and iPhone have gotten over 2 million downloads, and our mobile website has about 11% of our total audience. This is meaningful when you look at this slide here, that 45% of our total overall activity is being generated through mobile out of only 11% of our audience. So people that are using mobile devices are much more engaged, they're doing more things, but their expectations are also a little bit different. We've tested a iPad app concept that we rolled out earlier this year. We have on our website, we have a lot of editorial content. Reviews, details, videos that we do. And we partner with a lot of the manufacturers basically to inform car shoppers in a very storytelling kind of way what the benefits or values of their vehicles are. And we did a big campaign, for example, with Toyota earlier this year. And so we took all those things and we said, well, people are using that on our website. We get like 5 million YouTube views, and that's all great, but can we explore what that would look like on an iPad, and then let's see what the audience reacts to if we put that kind of experience out there and we put content as the center part of the experience rather than car listings, because typically people come to AutoTrader just to search for cars. So we put it out there. Didn't take us very long. I think we built it in like 90 days, got it out there into the marketplace, and despite the ratings being what we expected, which are really bad, you know, people hated it. They're like, well, we don't want to read reviews. We just want to find cars. You can find cars in it. There's ways to access and scan and search cars. But we kind of buried that. And despite all those ratings, we've actually gotten, on the metrics, are very highly engaged users. We've gotten a very good number of organic searches, organic downloads. The time that people spend on the app is really pretty good. It's higher than what it is on our website. It's about 17 minutes per session, with like 60% of the people coming back. So, you know, when we start thinking about success metrics, we don't necessarily rely 100% on what the ratings say, because people typically are going to rate you real well, or they're going to tell you you stink. So what we look at is really what's the performance of it, and how's it working. And then how does this fit into the overarching strategy? We're really trying to help consumers understand that AutoTrader is not just a place to come and find cars, but it's a place where you can actually learn about all the complexities and decision-making process about buying a car. And at the end of the day, for us, it's all about how do we absorb the most amount of time for a shopper without having to go to all these other third-party sites. They can just come and find what they need through our services. We also have a feature that which is pretty common, but we believe that the benefits that you can get out of mobile are not just specific to mobile web or to apps. Messaging and alerts are all obviously important things. We talked about them earlier. The way that we're employing them right now is adding a little feature onto our website where you've got a little icon. You can type in your cell phone number and it'll send you a text message. And then obviously you can click the link and get into our mobile website and see the car right there on your phone. So it's easy when you go off shopping. You've got it right there. You don't have to go dig around and do another search to find it. We have tested in some markets where what we're doing is in real time, we are sending a message to the dealer that a person, an anonymous person, is looking at this car in real time. And we basically created a form that the dealer can just check off, 3 different fields, whether he has it, he wants to make a special offer, or type in a special message for it. The dealer receives it as an email. He fills out the form, sends it back, and then we send a secondary text message to the shopper saying, here's additional information about this car that you inquired about. And what we found is that the dealers that are actually actively doing that end up getting about a 42% click to call. So you got to think somebody that's really excited about a car that they see on the website, that they're saving it, because a lot of people, what they do is they go to the website, they copy the URL, send it to themselves as email. That's not really what we want. So this gives actionable capabilities where you're leveraging mobile and the core website and then delivering real-time value opportunity for an advertiser. So we'll be looking to expand this into other markets and then into other types of messaging solutions. But we believe that messaging, especially for car shopping, has a lot of opportunity. When you look at the percentage of time that people spend on a mobile device, by and large, the largest percentage of time and utility of a handheld device is inherently communications, whether it's text messaging, whether it's email, whether it's phone, or even social, which is a lot of analogy to a communication platform. We're focusing on how we can expand some opportunities there and kind of serve as a communication broker between buyers and sellers. So here's where we're working on next. We're really looking at this whole dichotomy between the car shopping process, between what you can do online and then what you can do offline. And so we see that there's a real big opportunity, particularly for us, to kind of fit within that gap of connecting the online to offline. And so the way that we look at it is in 3 years mobile still going to be a terminology, or is e-commerce really going to be a terminology, or is it just going to be the web, and is it just going to be commerce? I kind of think it's just going to be commerce, and I think it's just going to be the web. It's just going to be the way that people expect to do things. So, I think this starts to beg some questions around here of what does buying a car really look like in that kind of world. So when we look at how do we craft a story out of those kinds of opportunities, these are the things that people like and don't like about buying a car online, or the process of shopping online. 76% are happy with the researching part online. 63% are happy with the experience in searching dealership inventory. Well, the problem is that a lot of dealership websites are kind of hard to navigate. 62% find info on incentives, specials, and rebates. That's a real important part. What we're finding is that a lot of people spend a lot of time learning about cars, but very few people spend a lot of time figuring out how they're going to pay for it, which is why people don't like dealers, because they blame the dealer when they think the dealer's taking advantage of them. So that's an opportunity there. Finding the best deal. Only 57% I think people have a perception of what the best deal is. What people end up doing in a lot of cases is spending all this time researching, and in 80% of the cases buy something totally different than what they spent all their time researching. So the money aspect of it is a real critical part of it. And then 56% say they're happy finding the right dealership. So that's becoming more important with ratings and reviews and all those things. Well, why should I buy from this dealership? So there's some upside opportunity there. In terms of the the satisfaction that people have, you can see the percentages drop here. This is what happens in the actual real life, in-store experience when I'm actually buying the car. Only 52% are happy with the negotiating process. 47% really are satisfied with the paperwork process. I mean, it takes like 4 hours to buy a car in most cases. Applying for financing, only 43% are happy with that. And then receiving a trade-in offer, only 37% are happy with that. They're never happy with what the dealer's offering them, right? You trade in your car and the guy looks at it and, yeah, you've got a scratch there and that's going to be like $5,000 off the car. People aren't happy about that. So we see that there's some opportunity to sort of focus on those two aspects and say, how do we start to solve those problems? How do we get into that space? Some tactics that we know that we have to do to kind of get us there. Well, first thing is, if you look at our website, it's inventory listings, it's display advertising, and it's not really required users to come in and register an account or do anything like that. You can just come in and search, save a car, copy it to yourself, text it to yourself, and you're done. So we know we've got to do some work around how do we build a more personalized experience. So we're working on a couple of different concepts. And these are just, some of these things are just concepts, but things that we're exploring. Really focusing going forward more on personalization and why would I want to create an account with AutoTrader? Some people won't want to do that because they'll think, well, all you're going to do is give my information to dealers. So what we've got to do is basically create an experience that, makes it easy for people to want to create an account and not have that trepidation. So doing things like behavioral loyalty, creating an account and then getting rewarded for things that you do, like checking in at dealerships or letting us know when you were at a dealership and there's the inventory that you looked at is not there anymore. Different activities. There's some things that you have to be careful when you do these kinds of things, though, because if you reward the wrong kinds of things, then what ends up happening is that you start to kind of mess up the experience and start driving people into things that creates more confusion. So these are things that we're exploring, we're looking into, but they're complex. And then an example on alerts and messaging. Everybody's doing alerts and messaging. Obviously, it makes sense. You're like, well, if I save a car, why can't you just push me a message and let me know when there's a car like it that I want that's for sale or a deal's been updated? You have to think about it. For us, there's a lot of challenges in managing the volumes of data we have on any given day. We have almost 4 million cars on our website, and those get updated like every single day because cars get sold, new cars get put in, pricing changes. Dealerships, change names, those kinds of things. So maintaining that kind of logistical data management system is really complicated. So making sure that we have the right message tailored to the right person to be able to deliver the right alert is an issue that we're working through. But it does provide a lot of opportunity. I mean, it drives a lot of engagement. It drives retention of the shopper. It's highly relevant. And as I mentioned before, with the text messaging feature that we have with the dealer alerting piece, it does deliver very effective results. But some of the cons around that is that you've got to deal with privacy issues, the legal aspects of it, and then also you have to make sure that it doesn't get away from you because some people that are real aggressive about this kind of thing will want to just try to exploit it and then end up creating a bad user experience. So what we got to do is make sure that we preserve the trust that people have with our brand. And then the other thing is focusing on some of these, facilitating the transaction purchase process here. So here's a little example of some things that we've explored, which is really more around selecting a car. You can see it's a totally different experience than what I just showed you on the earlier slide with the screen of our current website. Basically reimagining what advertising looks like, and then adding different things that are putting more control into the hands of the user, which are things that you're going to do anyways. The aspects of trading in your car, how much is it worth, how much money do I want to put down, how many monthly payments do I want to have, what kind of interest rate am I looking for. I find the different options of cars that I have. I go through this whole process, and then I can actually just submit an offer to, or submit my details to dealers anonymously, and then the ones that are interested in playing with me on that basis can respond to me, and I've already started the transaction process basically on my terms, not on the terms of the dealer. Because I think that's what ends up happening. People go to a dealership and all of a sudden I've got to start talking to this person about, I don't know anything about the car and I think I do, and then I got to start negotiating with this person I don't know about my credit situation and how much money I want to put down, and it's very complicated. So if we can empower the car shopper to be have more tools that they can start that process on their terms before they get to the dealership, it just makes it a lot more comfortable for them. Some considerations on all of this, like I mentioned earlier, car shoppers are already overwhelmed with way too many choices of cars, and opinions and options and features and all the things associated with that. Car shopping process is extremely complex. There's two sides to it. One is the actual what car, and then the other part is how does the financial aspects implicate that. So there's two things. That's why you go to some dealerships and the car dealers look like bankers, because it's like a real formal thing, right? Once you get into decide the car, then you got to go deal with a banker. People typically buy or lease cars every 3 to 4 years, and as technology is changing and behaviors are changing, and the last presentation talking about being able to come to a hotel and not even have to talk to a person, well, all those things kind of trickle down in my day-to-day expectations and then influence my expectations with what that means to car shopping. Will people buy cars on a phone or buy cars without talking to somebody? Sure. Not 100% of the people would. Especially if you're buying a used car, it's a little bit more complex. But I think that if the tools are available, certainly a good percentage of people would be happy to do that. And then obviously big data and analytics presents a lot of great opportunities, but they're not just like, hey, we've got all this data, which we do, and we can do all these great cool things. I think you've got to take a careful approach in really analyzing what you want to do and what you don't want to do so that you don't create more problems for yourself. And then a few thoughts on attribution. Obviously, we are an advertising platform, so our primary goal and our primary objective is to, because the way we make money is to make sure that we are really driving measurable ROI for our advertisers. So attribution for us takes a lot of different facets, but one of the primary ones is communicating to our advertisers that their advertising on our website is working. So obviously through a personalization approach, getting user registrations, that makes things a lot easier for us. There's lots of third-party data companies that we can work with where we can determine whether people actually did buy a car and then be able to track back that was actually inventory or things that people did on our website or into our experiences. And obviously the whole multi-screen thing creates some challenges and some opportunities in terms around targeting and messaging and all those things at an individual level. If you don't have user registrations, targeting people with the right message at the right time becomes a little bit more complicated. But if you know who they are, it obviously becomes a lot easier. And that's what I got. Any questions?
Hi, I'm just wondering if you ever get any negative feedback from the dealer experience, because once you kind of hand the customer over to the dealer, it's a crapshoot on how the dealer treats them. So I'm wondering if that feedback ever comes back on you and kind of how you reconcile that if it does. We have to deal with dealerships too, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the answer is yes, and not in every case. I think when the conversation comes up about omni-channel, to me it's the entire experience, right, from where I start to where I end up. And if I end up at the dealership, well, that's part of the experience. So it is hard for us to affect that, right? I mean, as much as you try to, there's not really a whole lot of things that we can do. We have not gotten into dealer ratings and reviews yet. There's some reasons why we haven't, but we're definitely exploring that to help people have more informed decisions around what that looks like. But that is a challenge that in any business like ours, where we're trying to be so close to the dealership and create such a great user experience for car shoppers, that that's going to happen. I mean, I do talk to people sometimes that think that we sell cars.
Thank you so much, Jose.
Thanks.